Is it my eyesight or? Yeah, that looks good. You guys okay? Staff? All right. Good evening, everyone. Unlike the clock on the wall that says it's 5 after 6, my watch says it's 5 after 7. I apologize for starting a little bit late. Welcome to Aurora's Committee of Adjustment meeting. I will start by introducing the committee members and staff. I am the committee chair. My name is Tom Plamondon. The remaining members of the committee are to my left, Michelle Boyer, Steve D'Angeli, and Clarence Louis. And we have one absent this evening. Daniel Lajeunesse is away. The Secretary-Treasurer will be appointed later on, or that'll be the first order of business, so we will introduce her in a moment. The planner is Matthew Peverini. So this evening, for each application that will be considered tonight, the following process will occur. I will briefly outline the purpose of the application or applications, and then the applicant or agent will then be given the opportunity to make a presentation. However, one is not required. If it is the applicant's decision whether they wish to speak or let the application proceed on the merits of the information as received. Following any initial comments from the applicant, I will invite members of the public who have an interest in the application to come forward and address the committee. Those members of the public who wish to speak must clearly state their name and address and sign the corresponding request for notice form on the table in front of me on my left, your right. After completing the form, please hand it to the Secretary-Treasurer. Each individual may speak only once on an issue, and once discussion has commenced in respect of a motion, no further presentations shall be made. If you require any assistance with regard to visual material or technical assistance, please let me know before making any presentation. This is a public meeting. It is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded in accordance with the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including on the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk. Please be advised that the reports being considered tonight are available on the desk again in front of you. Should you wish to receive notification of any of the decisions for tonight's meeting, please complete the appropriate form. Owners and agents will automatically be notified. Please ensure that all questions and or comments are directed through me as the chair. And if relevant, I will request the appropriate person respond. It should be noted that the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions or comments should the committee feel that it is appropriate. So, first order of business before we get to approval of the agenda is to confirm the new Secretary-Treasurer. And that is, I'm going to try it and hope I get it right. It's Prashanthi Manoharan to be confirmed as appointed new Secretary-Treasurer. So I'll look to a motion to confirm the appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the confirmation of Prashanthi Manoharan as the Secretary-Treasurer.
Thank you. I'll look for a seconder. And I'll call the question. All in favor? So we'll officially welcome Prashanthi as our new Secretary-Treasurer. We hope to make your experience with the committee an enjoyable one. And we'll look to you as Matthew and the rest of staff to help us getting through our deliberations here. I'll look to the committee for approval of the agenda. Michelle.
Through the chair, I move that we approve the agenda.
Thank you, and seconded. Stephen, thank you. All in favor? That carries. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? And seeing none, thank you. Look to the committee for adoption of the minutes of meeting number 2001, and that is the minutes of February the 6th, 2020. Stephen?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that the minutes for the Committee of Adjustment meeting number 20-01 from February 6, 2020 be adopted.
Thank you. Look for a seconder. Clarence, thank you. Now, all in favor? And those minutes are adopted. Thank you very much. Okay. So the first item, applications, we have a application for consent for 1623 Wellington Street Developments Limited, and that is 1623 Wellington Street East, and this is consent number 2020-01. The purpose of the proposed consent application is to facilitate the creation of 2 new lots fronting on Wellington Street East. The applicant is requesting provisional consent to sever and convey a parcel of land, Part 5, with an approximate area of 8.2 acres, which is 33,317 square meters, and a lot frontage of 216.68 meters, or 710.9 feet, and retain 2 parcels of land, one with an approximate lot area of 14.1 acres, 57,039 meters squared, and lot frontage of 294.19 meters, or 965.2 feet, parts 2, 3, and 4, and one with an approximate lot area of 12 acres, or 48,587 meters squared, and lot frontage of 175.38 meters, or 575.4 feet, being part 1. There has been, in the proposal, there has been a concept plan illustrating the proposed future development of the subject land, attached as Appendix C. And of course, the purpose is so that the lots can be individually owned and financed and subsequently developed to enhance and support the business park. I'll draw committee's attention to the fact that there is a zoning amendment currently in process for those properties. And I'll also highlight in the planning comments where we are to give consideration. One of them is the number and adequacy of highways at the bottom of the staff report there, and it's based on the comments above that staff are recommending a condition of approval that the owner enter into a site plan / development agreement and any ancillary agreement as required to secure the extension of Golding Avenue. And one of the retained parcels, Part 1, does not have direct access to the future extension of Golding. As such, staff are recommending that approval of the subject application be conditional on the owner applying to the Committee of Adjustment, this committee, to secure an access easement in favor of Part 1 for access to the future extension of Golding. So I will look to the applicant or agent. Good evening, welcome.
Is this the microphone here? Is it on? Hi, good evening. My name is Nicholas Papapetru. I'm from Smart Centers. I'm here representing the owner, 1623 Wellington Street Developments Limited. I have a presentation for the committee. Do I have access, or do you control it? Or? So, as noted, the subject parcel is located on the south side of Wellington Street East, just east of Leslie Street and west of Highway 404. The property is 32 acres in size. We have an active site plan application currently being reviewed by staff to permit approximately 120,000 square feet of retail space on the west side of the property, identified as the west block in purple, as well as the extension of Goulding Avenue through to Wellington Street East and the widening of Wellington Street East. The east block, what we call the east block, is an employment area that we are currently in for rezoning to permit additional employment uses. The severance application, as noted, is to sever a 8.2 acre parcel identified as Part 5 in red and retain two parcels, the first being Parts 2, 3, and 4. Part 2 is the retail development, Part 3 is the extension of Goulding Avenue, and Part 4 is the widening of Wellington Street East. Part 1 on the east side of the property is the second retained parcel. However, after discussing the application with staff and reviewing the staff report, we are asking the committee's consideration to make a minor change to the sketch to ensure that all three parcels have access to Goulding Avenue. The minor change proposed is shown here in orange. Again, the first retained parcel on the west side of the property remains unchanged in area and configuration. It will continue to have frontage on Wellington Street East. The severed parcel, which is now identified in red and identified as Parts 5, 7, and 8, will be reduced in area from 8.2 acres to 7.83 acres. And the reduction in area is a result of us allowing for a 13-meter drive aisle access point from Goulding Avenue to the second retained parcel. So the second retained parcel on the east side will now consist of Parts 1 and 6. All three parcels will have frontage on Wellington Street East and access to Goulding Avenue. They will all be serviced from Goulding Avenue, which will be hopefully constructed this spring. All three parcels will meet the town's zoning bylaws minimum lot area and frontage requirements. We've reviewed the staff report and the conditions proposed by staff, and we have no comments or issues, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Before we get to members of the committee, is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak in regards to this application? Okay. Thank you. Let me just, from the chair to staff, I'm going to ask and just double check and make sure that staff have seen the amendment that's being brought forward. This is the first time I see the Part 6 identification, and I'll ask, is that in order to provide access to Part 1 where Part 1 would have difficulty gaining access to Wellington being that close to the ramp to 404 South? Is that the reason for Part 6?
Through you, Mr. Chair. You are correct. They have requested access through Part 6. Initially, we considered a plan that would provide for an access easement. So to address that comment, the applicant has decided to revise the plan and create this Part 6 for access to Goulding. And from it's my understanding that'll be their primary access onto the site.
Thank you. Was it's 13 meters in width? Is that correct?
That's correct. So that allows for 2 outbound lanes and 1 inbound lane from Goulding, and wide enough landscaping on either side. It's consistent with the site plan or the concept plan that's in front of you that I don't have, unfortunately, in the presentation. But that's it will be a private drive aisle.
Let me ask then the question. Part 7, is that intended to be a public right-of-way?
Potentially, yes, in the future, yes. At which point, we may have to come back to the committee for an easement.
Okay. All right, I'll ask if there are any comments or questions from members of the committee. None? Yeah, in the concept plan, I had a look at it, and I was, I won't say surprised as much as I'm going to assume that Smart Centers has done some potential traffic analysis there. There's a rather large opportunity to create a very large office complex, and I think the number of, was it 850 car parking was identified. I may be wrong on that number, but it's up and around that neighborhood, and I'm hoping that there has been sufficient study that would provide access, stacking, and access to Wellington Street for the entirety of that development. Is that my understanding?
Site plan application for the retail development, our traffic studies take into account all of the development proposed on the west and east block. So Goulding Avenue is being sized appropriately, and we are, I don't want to jinx it, but we were in the tail end of our site plan approval process, so the traffic reports have been circulated to the MTO and the region and the town.
Okay, thank you.
And then parking proposed on the concept plan for the office park is meeting the town's minimum parking requirements.
Quick question again for staff. Matthew, where are we in the zoning amendment process for this one? I think I saw a notice with regard, or applicant, where are we in that process?
Our application, and I understand it's being circulated. We're in the, I guess, the beginning part of that process.
All right. Terrific, thank you. I don't have any other questions, so again, any follow-up from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion on the consent.
Through the chair, I move for the approval of consent application C 2020-01 as amended, subject to the 7 conditions as set out in Appendix A of the staff report.
Thank you. Seconder? Michelle?
Yeah, a second for the chair.
Thank you. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much, sir. Moving along. Next item for consideration is minor variance application 2020-02, and this is for 27 Chiswick Crescent. The owner applicant is requesting relief from the requirements of the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended to permit a sunroom addition at the rear of an existing detached dwelling. Section 24.31.1.3 permits a maximum lot coverage of 35%. The applicant is proposing a lot coverage of 37.5%. And departments and agencies circulated. Building Division, preliminary zoning review has been conducted to confirm the variance required for the proposed addition. Engineering Services, the pre-site alteration drainage pattern shall be maintained. Any changes due to site grading work shall not cause any adverse impacts on the adjacent property. Operational Services, an arborist report will be required as a condition of approval to assess the impact on existing vegetation and explore appropriate mitigation measures. The owner will be required to provide tree compensation and or replanting for any tree removed in accordance with the town's policy. Central York Fire Services, no comments provided. Legal Services, no comments provided. Regional Municipality of York, no comments provided at the time and writing of the report. And planning staff have reviewed the application with respect to Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. and are of the opinion that the requested variants meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Applicant or agent. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Skoulides, 25 Minnicott Avenue, Scarborough. And I'm an agent for Lifestyle Sunrooms for Mr. Henry Adrian Kudlak from 27 Chiswick Crescent. And you covered all the things in detail for me.
All right. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And I hope that you can accept and approve the minor variance of lot coverage.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure you're available for any questions if we have them.
Yes, I hope so.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on this application? Good evening, sir. Do you want to come forward and let us know who you are and what your address is, please? Yeah, come right forward to the mic. Sir, if you want to just stand aside, we'll let this gentleman come forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Commission, and I live at 23 Chiswick Crescent, which is the property immediately adjacent to the applicant property at 27 Chiswick Crescent. My apologies, Chair. I had forwarded this letter that I'd typed earlier because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it this evening, but I'm now here, and if it's okay, I'd like to read what I've prepared.
Yes, sir. And I'll just let you know that we were circulated. This is a letter that you have put together on March the 9th, and it's this one here.
Yes.
All right, go right ahead.
Okay. Again, I'll repeat. My name is Chris Commission. I live at 23 Chiswick with my family, immediately adjacent to 27 Chiswick Crescent on the north side. I recently received notice that the owners of 27 Chiswick had made an application to increase the lot coverage to 37.5%. I have read the site plan and the limited description of the structure to be built on the newly constructed deck at the rear of the property. As a result, I have a number of concerns with the proximity of this structure to my property and the impact it will have on the use and enjoyment of my property. It is for the following reasons that I adamantly oppose the application. The first concern that I have has to do with the blockage of natural light. After reviewing the website for Lifestyle Sunrooms and getting a better idea of what the structures looked like, it is clear that the structure will cover the 192 square feet and be situated just over 4 feet from the fence line, which will block considerable amount of light during the spring and early summer months. The property at 27 Chiswick Crescent is on the high side of the natural grade on the street, which makes the base approximately 2 feet higher than the grade in my backyard. The natural east-west arc of the sun during the summer months and spring and summer months is slightly south of my property and directly in line with any objects or obstructions at the rear of 27 Chiswick. Over the years, I have struggled to get grass and other vegetation to grow along the south side of the rear of my yard due to the short window of opportunity for direct sunlight in the afternoon hours. To combat this issue, I have pruned the trees at a lower level to allow as much light through the lower canopy without damaging the trees. The proposed structure would block a 16-foot section of my backyard from getting the necessary sunlight to grow the grass and other vegetation. In addition to the lack of sunlight for growth, we also find that the ground along that side of the yard never gets a chance to dry out and stays very wet. More shade will only exacerbate this problem. A structure of the proposed size situated so close to the property line with the added height due to the natural grade will potentially stand over 20 feet from the ground level. These calculations are obviously only approximate, but even so, it would be the height of over half of the actual width of the entire property. Number two, the drainage. My concern is over the impact the structure will have on the drainage of the rainwater. Again, a result of being on the low side of the natural grade, we often have water accumulation along the property line with 27 Chiswick Crescent. The site plan describes the structure as having downspouts at the outside corners in accordance with a number of articles. This would mean that all the rainwater, which would normally be naturally distributed over the 192 square feet, will now be directed to the outer corners less than 4 feet from the property line. From there, gravity will do its work, and the accumulated rainwater will now quickly find its way to the shaded section of my yard. Over the years, I've attempted to maintain the natural swale to reduce the constant saturation by draining the water away without success. I have even sought professional advice where I've been informed that my property, may require some form of French drain in order to stop further damage by the runoff from the adjacent property. And finally, the third major concern that I have is simply to do with the property value and aesthetics. My final concern over the potential impact the structure will have on the value of my property and the visual aesthetics of its proximity to the property line. Prior to typing this letter, I stood in my back deck looking south over the fence towards 27 Chiswick Crescent. My current view has a nicely constructed deck in the foreground with the trees and the view of the sky as far south as south end of the entire crescent. If this structure is permitted, not only will I no longer have the view to the south, it will feel as though 16 feet of my rear yard has been boxed in. I realize this is just my personal opinion. However, I have been told by more than one real estate professional that it will certainly have a negative impact on the value of the property. And people don't want to feel as though their yard is being enclosed by towering structures to the adjacent property line. We moved here from the city to escape from these kinds of views and to enjoy the beauty Aurora has to offer. It is for these aforementioned reasons I oppose the increase of the lot coverage to 27 Chiswick Crescent. Although I understand such a structure would be desirable to the applicant, it would be at the expense of my family's personal enjoyment of our own space. In closing, I couldn't help but notice that the proposed structure occupies exactly half of the area of the newly constructed deck. If the applicant would consider having the structure occupy the south half of the deck, it would no longer have the detrimental impact on my property. Positioning it towards the middle of their lot would not only satisfy my concerns, but it shouldn't impact the neighbor on the opposite side, ensuring all surrounding space is respected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So I will let the applicant address any of those concerns should he wish to do so. And I'll also ask and make sure that the applicant receive a copy of the letter. I'm not sure, sir, if you've received a copy of that?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So if there's any comments that you want to make with regards to those issues that your neighbor has raised, please feel free to do so.
Well, I'm not an engineer, so I'd have to speak to the engineering department if there are some of the changes that could be done. So at this particular time, I came here to ask for your approval on minor variance of lot coverage.
Right.
And I can't comment on whether they would change and go halfway through.
Yeah, I know that, you know, one of his major issues does relate to drainage. One of the conditions from engineering services is the condition that does relate to drainage. In fact, the comment is that the pre-site alteration drainage pattern shall be maintained. Any changes due to site grading works shall not cause any adverse impacts on the adjacent property. So if we approve this, that condition would apply to you.
They're running off.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this application? All right, seeing none. Comments or questions from members of the committee? Michelle?
So through the chair, just a comment. When I look at the plan, it looks like the proposed sunroom and the existing deck are pretty well split in half. You've got 17.84 square meters, I guess it is, on both. So potentially, if you were to work with the town, again, even if you move the sunroom to the middle, the total area would still be the same. The variance would still be needed in terms of the increase, right? So that might be something you might work with the property owner in terms of maybe switching them around in terms of the design. So that was my comment. And then again, you're okay with the conditions, all of the conditions listed in the recommendation? You're okay with all of them?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. No other comments? There are a couple of things that we cannot do in this case, and you talked about sunlight and you know, and views. So the views wouldn't change. The deck is there, the heights are there, and I'm going to just double check here with staff. The only thing we're here for is 37%. The height is not an issue, if I'm correct.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Okay, so there's no height issues. Okay. I'll look to the committee for a motion on this application.
I'll do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so through the chair, I move that we accept MV-2020-02 for 27 Chiswick Crescent,
With conditions?
subject to the conditions as outlined in Appendix A.
Staff?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did receive a late comment from our operations division. They have advised that they clarified the method of construction and that as there will be no excavation to install the proposed structure, they are no longer concerned about the impact to the tree roots for the trees located along the property boundary. Therefore, the comments and conditions related to the tree matters are no longer applicable.
Okay, thank you for that.
So that's number, which number is that?
That'll be operational services. That's the third.
But in the recommended conditions.
I'm sorry.
Which ones, is there one that can be removed then? Is it number?
So let's just find out, staff, which conditions, can we identify those?
To 8.
3 to 8 inclusive.
That is correct.
Correct,
Okay.
okay. So subject to condition.
Conditions 1 and 2.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Clarence? Clarification?
Sorry, thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, to staff. So in reading those conditions, so are we comfortable that there would be no other impacts to vegetation? Understanding that the excavation, was that the only concern or for these conditions on the vegetation? Because I do see that in certain cases of these conditions, it doesn't make specific reference to excavation. It does say. I'm sorry, conditions 3 says the report shall include recommendations and an action plan on the mitigation of negative effects to vegetation during and post-construction periods. So it seems to be more of a general condition as that I'm noting. So I just have a concern removing all of those conditions where vegetation could be impacted by general construction.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just based on the comments that we received today, they make reference to the February 21st comments provided by Sarah Tienkamp.
Yeah.
And that they are no longer applicable and they have no further comments or concerns with the minor variance.
Okay. if we left those conditions, to staff, if we left the conditions in, they would have been satisfied regardless. Am I correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's exactly right.
Okay. So what we can do is we can note that we have received staff comments further to the report as with regards to conditions. However, as some of those conditions have been satisfied or will have been satisfied, the conditions can remain. Right. Okay, so let's just look at that motion again. Do you want to rephrase the motion?
So are we going back to accepting all of the conditions? All right, so through the chair, I move that we accept application MV-2020-02 for 27 Chiswick Crescent, subject to the conditions as outlined in Appendix A, recommended condition of approval.
Thank you. Seconder? Clarence. Thank you. Call a question. All of those in favor? That carries. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next item, we have a minor variance application, Summit Homes Holding for 71 Child Drive. This is minor variance MV 2020-03. The applicant is requesting relief from the requirements of the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended to permit the construction of a two-story single detached dwelling. The following relief is being requested. Section 24.497.3.3 specifies a maximum gross floor area, GFA, of 370 square meters. The applicant is proposing a gross floor area of 432 square meters. I'm just for the record, I will cover off planning comments just to draw attention to staff's comments that the proposed minor variance does not meet the general intent of the official plan. Further, that the proposed variance does not meet the general intent of the zoning bylaw. And that the proposed variance is not considered desirable or for the appropriate development or use of the lot. And finally, that the proposed minor variance is not minor in nature. Other departments and commenting agencies, the building division, the preliminary zoning review was completed for the variance. Engineering, no concerns with the minor variance. Operational Services Division. There are trees situated on the subject property and or property line may be impacted by excavation or disturbance due to construction. This may result in irreparable damage to the root system and or canopy to one or more of the trees. Further, it may be necessary to remove some trees for the proposed construction. There are a number of points that I won't completely read through, but draw attention to that the owner, and the numbering is a little off on this, but number one, that the owner may be required to provide an evaluation report prepared by a certified arborist or professional registered forester outlining all aspects of the impacts that this proposal will have on existing and current remaining vegetation, which should be a 2. In addition, the report shall include a schedule of monitoring the ongoing site work through a series of scheduled site visits by the arborist or forester during and post-construction. 2, which would be 3, that the owner may be required to provide vegetation compensation and a replanting plan in accordance with the Town of Aurora tree removal / pruning and compensation policy. 3, which would be 4, the owner shall agree to comply with the town of Aurora Tree Permit Bylaw number 5850-16 prior to removal of any tree on the property. 4, which would be 5, that the owner shall agree to provide financial securities based on the total value of the tree compensation evaluation. And that 5, or now 6, all of the above shall be included as terms and conditions in a letter of undertaking with the town of Aurora to guarantee compliance with conditions of approval. Central York Fire, no comments were received. Legal Services, no comments received. Regional Municipality of York, no concerns with the minor variance. And Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, no comments were received at the time of writing this report. And again, in the conclusions, I'll just draw attention that planning staff have reviewed the minor variance application with respect to Section 45, subparagraph 1 of the Planning Act, and are of the opinion that the requested variances do not meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act for granting minor variances. Applicant, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members, and committee staff. My name is Arjang Behesht from Homeland, and to my left is the senior architect of the project. I'd like to make a presentation explaining the proposal.
Thank you.
Firstly, I would like to announce that the proposed gross floor area will now be reduced from 432 square meters to 400 square meters, which is over 50% of a reduction from its difference over the bylaw. And that is as suggested to us by Ms. Anna Enriquez, the senior planner at the town, who had requested to meet us on the day of the deadline to submit the staff report. Now, we were only given a few hours to see if the reduction of 50% was possible for our proposal. And when we sent the revised site plan, unfortunately, the staff report was already sent out. With the proposal we have now, the staff report would be, in our opinion, supportive and therefore different than the one before you today. Now, if I could turn
So let me just stop you.
Yes.
With all due respect, I'll ask staff. Have staff seen this presentation that we are about to see?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have not.
All right. We can go ahead and consider your presentation, but I'm also going to suggest that this committee hasn't seen any of your revised drawings, nor have the public had a chance to review this. If you wish, you have, in my my suggestion to you, you've got a couple of options. You can go ahead and make the presentation. You run the risk, two risks. Number one. Risk number one is we don't approve it. Risk number 2, if the public is here and wants to object, they will end up filing an objection, which could further add cost and delay to your project. The second option you have is request a deferral. If you do that, you would be in a position then to have it reviewed by staff, obtain their comments, which would potentially modify their recommendation. And the reason why I took my time as chair and went through their individual comments as it relates to the criteria that we look at, they are not prepared to support the 432. I'm not sure that at this stage you could potentially be bringing back something that staff could support. And then, obviously, the public have a chance to review it. And members of this committee give it a fair review. So I'm going to leave it in it's your call. And I'll leave it in your hands to decide. Or we can, this committee can make a motion to defer as well. That's an option that we have. So I don't know how confident you are. If you are confident and you want to let it go, I caution you very, very, very strongly that this might not be the route tonight to go.
Mr. Chair.
Now,
would you like
here's
to
what we
say
can
something?
do as well. If you wish,
Okay.
we can recess for a moment and give you time to consider what I've just said. And if you want to do that, we can bring this item back later on in this in the meeting, and either listen to your recommendation, because this is a significant reduction. You know, you're talking from 432 to 400, which is a substantial reduction in terms of percentage. So do you want to recess for a few minutes to review it, or?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and committee members, committee staff. My name is Hamid Basht. I'm the designer of the house. If I may suggest, just as a suggestion to save everybody's time, since Ms. Anna Henriks is here herself, I would like, if possible, to hear her own opinion about our reduction. Maybe we can just simply modify the staff report at this moment to save everybody's time.
Go ahead, Anna.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as discussed with my meeting with the applicant the Friday before the deadline that the package was sent to yourselves, I am unable to comment without being given the opportunity to review the plans, and also the opportunity to circulate and to have other staff review the plans.
Before we go too much further, now, as a committee, we can also just defer it. So maybe I want to cover that option off with members of the committee. So I'll let members of the committee maybe speak on that particular point. I believe, Clarence, you wanted to.
And gentlemen, I want to just reiterate what Mr. Chair has already referred to you. This committee, as part of our job to consider all applications, we have to have the time to consider it. One thing that I think would be considered offside is what I think you're about to do, which is if you want to proceed to give us information last minute. We won't do that. So with that in mind, we'll let you decide what you want to do.
Stephen, yes. In fact, I'd like to hear from everybody at the table.
So I would also like to caution you and just give you a procedural note. If you were to proceed today and we were to make a decision based on this last-minute information, and were we to deny the application, then we would not be able to hear a similar application unless there is a significant difference from what is presented today. So you would be putting us at a disadvantage in terms of having to listen to the, and make a decision without having the benefit of having viewed the information in advance and having been able to look at the site, to look in light of the new proposal. Similarly, you would be putting staff at a disadvantage. And the one thing that I would recommend, should you defer, there is there have been some quite a few objections that have been raised, some that have also come in at the last minute, and a deferral would give you an opportunity to potentially, should you wish, also discuss with the community and potentially come back with a different staff report suggestion and a different opinion potentially from the community.
Thank you. Michelle, did you want to add anything to the discussion at this table?
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues in terms of their feedback and comments, and based on what I think you are about to do, I would not be able to make a decision based on the fact that we haven't had staff look at any revised report. We haven't seen any plans.
Just make one point that this property is subject also to site plan approval and also to the stable neighborhood approval once we pass the Committee of Adjustment. So this minor variance application we have before us today still needs to go through the approval of staff, through the stable neighborhood guidelines, which are very, very extensive and, if I may add, more severe than the bylaws we have in front of us.
So, okay.
And with that, sorry, go ahead.
I was,
So doesn't that just suggest that, you know, because of the other process that you will have to undertake, a simple deferral of your application tonight is not going to prejudice or delay the development? Is that not clear?
The deferral of this committee would still delay us in the project, considering that we have to go through that process anyway. So this will just be an additional time constraint for our proposal. Although, regardless, sorry, Mr. Chair, go ahead.
So let's just talk about the delay for a second here, okay? You obviously have spent some time and energy to revise your proposal. Normally, when an application is made and there's a request for deferral, the revisions haven't even been done. My suggestion, and I'll ask staff, if a deferral was either suggested by the committee or by the applicant, given the fact that they have revisions, is it possible to bring this back to the committee at the next committee meeting? That would be roughly 4 weeks from now. Is that realistic?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is definitely something we could consider if we were able to get a full set of a full set of drawings within, I'd say, the next day.
Day or two? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you what you would like to do.
Mr. Chair, through you, reducing this GFA by over 50% of the difference over its bylaw and revising all plans within a day, taking into consideration that we are architects who don't simply copy and paste, but rather the design process is done through hand sketches and takes about 2-3 months to complete. That's kind of a hard ask to make such a reduction in one day.
You're telling me, though, that you're prepared tonight to go with some revised plans that you already have. Am I correct or not?
No, the revised plans are not finished. We have taken time to consider that we can reduce the GFA by 50% of the difference, but we have to go back to the drawing board and make those reductions.
Oh, so you're asking us then to consider a reduction without seeing anything. Is that correct?
No, I have a complete package prepared to show what the reduction will be and how it affects the neighborhood around us.
So I'm hearing a couple of months to do something, and you're sitting here and you're telling me that you've got some plans right now. I'm not understanding what you're saying here. Do we have something to look at or not?
Let me explain, Mr. Chair. On Friday, I just could have time and managed to change the site plan. Changing all the plans and elevations need a little bit more time.
I see.
But I will, that's why I emailed Ms. Anna Henriquez the revised site plan, which was due to the reduction to 400 square meters. But We are going to work hard Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and submit the revised full set of drawings on Monday.
So you're asking for a deferral, if I understand?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I appreciate the decision that you're taking in this regard. It allows staff to review. It allows them to amend their report. It allows them to recirculate. It allows the public the opportunity to see what it is exactly you're changing now. So with that, I'll ask for a motion from the committee to defer the minor variance application MV 2020-03.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the deferral of MV 2020-03, the application for minor variance at 71 Child Drive.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Stephen? Thank you. All in favor? That carries. So what we have just done, for those of you in the public who are here on this particular application, first of all, thank you for coming. Second, we have noted, and I've asked staff to update members of the committee with your letters, emails, so as to make sure that we have seen them and that the applicant sees them so that they can respond. It would be their intention then to bring this matter back before the committee at the next committee meeting, which would be in approximately 4 weeks. So I'd ask that you keep your eyes open, and if you do wish to be notified specifically, communicate that through the planning department at the town. So thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Moving forward. Minor variance application MV 2020-04 A through E. This is for 94 Connaught Avenue, Hall. The applicant is requesting relief from the requirements of the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended to permit the construction of a 2-story single detached dwelling. The following relief is being requested. A, Section 24.497.3.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 7.5 meters. The applicant is proposing a second-story addition, which is 1.19 meters to the rear property line. Section B, Section 4.20 of the zoning bylaw states that eaves may project 0.7 meters into any required yard. The applicant is proposing a second-story addition with eaves projecting 6.62 meters into the required yard. C, Section 4.20 of zoning bylaw states that open porches pardon me, may encroach 2.5 meters into the front yard and in no cases shall be closer than 4.5 meters. The applicant is proposing a porch which is 4.3 meters to the front property line. D, Section 4.20 of the zoning bylaw states that steps may encroach 2 meters into all yards and in no case be closer than 4.5 meters. The applicant is proposing porch steps, which is 3.2 meters into the front property line. E, Section 4.20 of the zoning bylaw states that decks may encroach 3.7 meters into the rear yard and in no case shall be closer than 3.8 meters. The applicant has constructed a deck which is 0.0 meters to the rear property line. Comments received from departments and agencies circulated. The Building Division preliminary zoning review was completed for this minor variance application. Engineering Division. No comments or concerns for this minor variance application. Operational Services, there are trees situated on the subject property and/or property line may be impacted by excavation or disturbance due to construction. This may result in irreparable damage to the root system and/or canopy to one or more of these trees. The following conditions are recommended in the event that the application is approved: that the owner may be required to provide an evaluation report prepared by a certified arborist or professional registered forester, outlining all aspects of the impacts of this proposal, that this proposal will have on existing and current remaining vegetation. 2, in addition, the report shall include a schedule of monitoring the ongoing site work through a series of scheduled site visits by the arborist/forester during and post-construction. The owner may be required to provide vegetation compensation and a replanting plan in accordance with the Town of Aurora tree removal, pruning, and compensation policy, and that the owner shall agree to comply with the town, or with the Aurora Tree Permit Bylaw number 5850-16 prior to the removal of any trees on the property. 5, that the owner shall agree to provide financial securities based on the total value of the tree compensation evaluation. 6, that all of the above shall be included as terms and conditions in a letter of undertaking with the Town of Aurora to guarantee compliance with the conditions of approval and all related site works. Central York Fire, no comments received. Legal Services, no comments received. The Regional Municipality of York, no comments or concerns. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, subject property is located outside the area regulated by the Conservation Authority. And planning staff have reviewed the minor variance application A through E with respect to Section 45, Paragraph 1 of the Planning Act, and are of the opinion that the requested variance meet the 4 tests. Applicant, owner, agent, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. I'm Trevor. This is my wife, Krista. We're the owners and applicants at 94 Canard Avenue. We're proposing to construct the second story on our existing bungalow. The addition would be mirroring the exact footprint of our existing bungalow, with the addition of a larger open porch and a slight expansion to the west and south faces of the garage, since it would have to be rebuilt to facilitate the second story addition. We're requesting 5 minor variances that were identified through the zoning review, all of which are existing conditions on our existing bungalow today. The first one being our rear yard setback. So the 1.19 meters variance requested is present on our house today, and we're not proposing to change anything. The eaves projection is a variance, the variance requested is present on our house today, and we're not proposing to change anything. The open porch encroachment is present today on our current porch, although we are proposing to expand the current porch to make it in keeping with within our neighborhood. And that goes along with the 4th variance in our step encroachment as well. So it doesn't comply today, and we're requesting that variance as well. So like I mentioned before, we feel the porch we're proposing is keeping in with the existing character of the neighborhood and the architectural style of the surrounding homes, which is why we have included it in this application, and speaking with staff, that's a desirable feature within this neighborhood. And then the final one is the deck encroachment variance that is requested is also present today. And that deck was built in the early 2000s before we purchased the house. So we're not proposing to change anything. As you can see, all these variances are existing today. We're proposing to design the house in keeping with the existing character, like I said, of the community as per the Stable Neighborhoods Design Guidelines.
I'll say a few things too. So we love our neighborhood, and we've been living here for the past 4 years, almost 4 years this summer. And eventually we would like to start a family. So in order to do that, we kind of need a little bit more space. And so we were just thinking that adding a second story addition would be the best option for our family.
Yeah, and we think the variances are appropriate as they do exist today, and they're keeping with the existing character of the neighborhood and community, and we would love to move forward with the process. And be happy to answer any questions or concerns anybody has, and we're okay with the conditions that were set out in the staff report.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on this application? Yes, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Linda Stevens, and I'm a local realtor. My grandfather built a lot of the homes in the neighborhood, and I'm actually here on the matter for Wells Street, but I felt compelled to come forward in support. Oh, there you are. I'm really encouraged by the young families investing in our neighborhood, and I have to say to both of you, it really touched me the way you expressed the character of the neighborhood, that you love the neighborhood, that you get the neighborhood, and that you brought your proposal forward considering the flavor and the makeup of the neighborhood. And I think that's just lovely. We've got a lot of older homes there. As I say, my grandfather built quite a few of them, and to see this investment in working with existing footprints is a positive step.
Thank you. Can I just, I wanted to get your name and your address for the record.
Linda Stevens.
Yeah.
From 138 Wells Street. That was one of my grandfather's home. 3 generations of our family were there. We did recently move, but I am a local realtor. I just sold 130 just to the north, and I've just listed 133, so I'm still very active in the community, and I support their plans, so all the best to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name's Dave Presley. I'm at 85 Harrison Avenue. And I originally came here to oppose this, and I had several different reasons why I was going to oppose it. And then I listened to the couple, and I think I agree with what they're going to do. So I've changed my mind considerably. The other fellow up there, he said, tell them I said the same. So, not him.
All right.
So there you go.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to, is there anyone else that does wish to speak with regards to this particular application? Other than the quiet support that we just saw. Good evening, sir. Just your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Kinsella. I live at 85 Connaught. Actually, I don't live at 85 Connaught. I own 85 Connaught right across the street from the subject property. I completely support this application, and I'm hoping that the committee will do so as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We don't normally see people coming forward to support these things. Normally, you're usually here to voice your concerns, so this is rather refreshing from the chair. All right. Any questions or comments from this table?
No, I think in the spirit of what's going on here, no, you know, we as the Committee of Adjustment, we try and make it a point to go out to all the properties and view the properties. And when I first saw these drawings and I looked at the rear yard setback, I was initially concerned, and I did visit the property and took a look. I did knock a few times, but I guess nobody was there. I note that it's the existing footprint. It is already a non-conforming build. The existing footprint will be maintained, and in a time where we're knocking down old houses in favor of maximizing space, I think I applaud, as does the community, the application here. So.
Thank you. I'll look then to the committee for a motion. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that minor variance application MV-2020-0494 Connaught Avenue be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. I'll look for a seconder. Thank you, Clarence. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice to hear that we're appreciated sometimes. Before I actually go any further, as chair, I am very remiss. For the record, I would like to make sure that in the minutes it's reflected that Anna Henriquez is with us from the Planning Department of Staff. My apologies for not recognizing you at the onset of the meeting. All right. If we, yeah, there's lots of love going on outside. That's what we need right now, is lots of love. Okay. Moving along. Next item on the agenda this evening is minor variance application for 126 Wells. And this is file MV 2020-05. The owner applicant is requesting relief from the requirements of the town zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended to permit a side addition to an existing detached dwelling. A section 24.497.3.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters. The applicant is proposing a side addition with an interior side yard setback of 0.6 meters. B, section 4.20 of the zoning bylaw permits a maximum eave encroachment of 0.7 meters into any required yards. The applicant is proposing a side addition with eaves projecting 1.2 meter into the required interior side yard. C, the section 24.497.3.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 3 meters for any portion of a building that extends beyond the main rear wall of the adjacent dwelling. The applicant is proposing a side addition with an interior side yard setback of 0.6 meters. Section 4.20 of the zoning bylaw permits a maximum eave encroachment of 0.7 meter into any required yards. The applicant is proposing a side addition with eaves projecting 2.7 meter into the required interior side yard. Departments and agencies circulated. Building Division, preliminary zoning review conducted to confirm the variances required for the proposed addition. Engineering Services, no concerns. Operational Services, no concerns. Electra Utilities, no concerns. Central York Fire Services, no comments provided. Legal Services, no comments provided, and all of this at the time of writing of the report. And the Regional Municipality of York, same, no comments provided. Planning staff have reviewed the application with respect to section 45(1), paragraph 1 of the Planning Act as amended, and are of the opinion that the requested variants meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Owner, applicant, or agent, good evening again, sir.
I'm acting on behalf of the owners. My name is Matthew Kinsella, and we're seeking this variance so that we can accommodate a single-car garage with a small loft space above it. The family's lived here for almost 8 years now, and they need more space. In light of some of the developments that have been going on in the neighborhood and some of the pushback against those developments, they've decided that they would like to keep their bungalow and just enhance it and enlarge it. I also have some pictures here showing the architectural rendering. So what you can see here is the existing house, and the roof line itself will remain consistent across the back ridge. So we're not making the house any higher, and we don't, I believe, have any objections from any of the immediate neighbors. However, one letter was submitted today regarding this application. We also have one other photo just showing the current state of the house and the immediate adjacent neighbor. Just so that you can see, there's a slight difference in the two properties. And the house to the north doesn't have any problem with the variance that we're requesting. And that's it.
Is that your presentation?
It's not too much else I can say. It's, in my opinion, it's quite a minor variance.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your presentation then. I'll ask if there are members of the public that wish to speak with regards to this application. Good evening again.
There it is. I know the family. They're a fine family. We remember when they came in and they did quite a lot of renovations to the home. As I say, this is an area of older homes. I just sold their neighbor's home, 130, just to the south. It's just out of the picture. That is somewhat a similar type of bungalow that has fallen into quite a state of disrepair that we hope will be rejuvenated as well. I can't even speak to the amount of rejuvenation that they've already done. I was concerned with the dwelling to the north. I think it quite dwarfs it, and I don't feel that their proposal would have any negative adverse impact. I think that it's quite a fair, reasonable proposal that they have put forward. And again, to keep our growing families in our neighborhood as part of the flavor of the stable neighborhood, we want families, we want stability in our neighborhoods, and I think that this quite conforms with that. There are some concerns with some of the 2016-17 bylaw that some of the restrictions are so severe, and concerns from owners of what they might accomplish with their property. So I feel that this one is quite a reasonable proposal in the right direction that will enhance the property and again enhance the neighborhood. And the two bungalows, as I say, immediately to the south on the southwest. I just listed southeast today. It's also in need of some repair and modifications, and we're hoping to see continued progress in the right direction, working with existing footprints such as they are doing, perhaps as opposed to the one shown here in the north. So I'm in support of that, and I know that the owners to the south of them are in support and said I hope that they can get their plans for their family as well. So I know, even though it's third party, they were in support of that and expressed that to me as their agent. So all the best to you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on this application? Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing, well. All right. Just to staff on this one, my understanding is I have two comments that were received. I want to make sure that the applicant has seen both of those. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one is basically a transcript from an email. Am I correct? Because it looks like it's from the same individual, Lenore Presley, and it looks like that's the same author on both comments that we've received. Am I correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, you are correct.
Okay. Has the applicant seen those comments, all of them?
Yes, I have seen them.
Both?
Yeah, both comments.
Okay.
I think you're correct. I think it's the same person commenting twice. My understanding is that they live at 85 Harrison, which is considerably distanced from this property, so I'm not sure how the impact affects them when the adjacent neighbors who are actually impacted by our application have no problem with it.
Okay. Yeah, I think most of them are kind of generic and general in nature in terms of their comments
I don't
on.
think that our application will destroy the neighborhood as it's outlined in their letter.
Okay. I'll look to, thank you for your comment. I'll look to the committee for a motion. Michelle, thank you.
Through the chair, I would like to propose that we accept and MV-2020-05 at 126 Wells Street, subject to the conditions as outlined in Appendix A.
Thank you. Seconder? Clarence? Thank you. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, sir. And last but not least, minor variance application 68 Cousins Drive. This is minor variance application 2020-06 for Stewart. The applicant is proposing a one-story addition to the existing two-story dwelling at 68 Cousins Drive. The following relief from the requirements of the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 6000-17 as amended is requested. Section 24.497.3.2 of the zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 3.0 meter beyond the main rear wall of the adjacent dwelling. The applicant is proposing an addition with an interior side yard setback of 1.76 meters. And B, section 4.20 of the zoning bylaw states that eaves may project 0.7 meter into any required yard. The applicant is proposing an addition with eaves projecting 1.70 meter into the required interior side yard. And departments and agencies circulated. Engineering Services reviewed the application and have no objection. Building Division preliminary zoning review conducted, no comments provided specifically on the application at the time of the writing of this report. Operational Services, there are trees situated on the subject property and or property line that may be impacted by excavation or disturbance due to construction and or demolition. This may result in irreparable damage to the root systems and or canopy to one or more of these trees. Furthermore, it may be necessary to remove some of the trees for the proposed construction. As a condition of approval, condition 2 in Appendix A is recommended. Central York Fire Services, no comments provided at the time of the writing of the report. Same for Legal Services and the Regional Municipality of York, no concerns with the proposed minor variance. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, it's not within the regulated area, and Electra Utilities reviewed the proposed variance application and have no objections. Planning staff have reviewed the application with respect to Section 45, Paragraph 1 of the Planning Act as amended, and are of the opinion that the requested variances meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Applicant or agent. Good evening, sir.
Good
Welcome.
evening, Mr. Chair and Committee. My name is Kyle Kadra, KBK Architects. So I do have, I can do like just a 60-second presentation.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. So the reason why we're asking for this variance is because there's an existing swimming pool, and then we need to provide space sufficient for outdoor living, as well as enlarging the kitchen and also enlarging the great room. So we have gone through the staff report, and we do understand the conditions proposed by Parks and Fleet, and we accept them. So that's everything. Thank you.
That was less than 60 seconds. Thank you. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak with regard to this application? You may even have a rooting section in the back, I'm not sure. All right. Seeing none, I'll ask members of the committee if there are any comments or questions to the applicant. Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble keeping these all straight. We've had so many tonight. This is a question to staff and possibly the agent. Is the garage, the existing garage to be demolished, is that already non-conforming in terms of the interior side yard setback? It appears to be in the drawings, but
Check one sec.
Through the chair, the garage that is existing now precedes the in effect zoning bylaw. The in effect zoning bylaw is the resulting bylaw out of the stable neighborhood site plan control, which is now stricter than the previous 6000-17 bylaw that was previously in place.
thank you, Matthew.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion from the committee on this application. Clarence?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the approval of the minor variance application MV 2020-06, subject to the conditions as set out in Appendix A, those being the two specified in the staff report.
Look for a seconder. Michelle, thank you. The race was on there. I could just feel it. Thank you, and I'll call the question. All of those in favor? That carries, sir. Thank you very much. That completes the presentation of applications this evening. I'll ask if there is any new business from either staff or members of the committee. None? Again, I'm going to welcome the newest member of our committee, and also thank Anna for attending the meeting this evening. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that we are adjourned for the evening.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Oh, no, we don't need a seconder to adjourn, do we? Do we? All right. I didn't think so. But in order to cover the base, I'll look for a seconder. Clarence puts up his hand. All in favor? We're adjourned. I thought that was the only one. That's the only one that we don't.